couple of weeks ago, I was asked by Craig Patrick over at Fox 13 News to sit down with him and talk about what's really happening with real estate in the Tampa Bay area and the cost of living in the Tampa Bay area. I put a link to that video down below. Take a look at it later. I'm going to kind of go over the highlights right now, but take a look at it. Let me know what you think. The conversation got down to why are people moving out of Florida? In my opinion, there are a number of reasons. The cost of living is just one of them. For decades, people have been moving to Florida. A lot have been retirees wanting to get out of the dark, freezing winters of the northern states, and I can fully understand that. We still have a number of people doing just that. Others who are, still working have been moving here for a change of lifestyle. Looking for a little bit of a slower lifestyle. It's a sun 360 days a year, playing golf or boating or whatever all year round, not just a couple months out of a year. Again, to get out of pushing snow. A ton of people moved here to get out of the restrictions placed by governments in other states during the pandemic. And let's be real, people have been moving to Florida for decades, by the hundreds every day of the week. The pandemic pushed that number into the thousands of people every day. That growth has had some negative effects on the lifestyle people were looking for. Increased costs.
A UCF study projects that our economy will keep growing. However, wages have not kept up with the cost of living.
Tampa leads the nation in the rate of inflation, more than cities like San Francisco, Honolulu, and even New York. It still costs more to live in, say, New York, but the rate of increase here in Tampa has been record-setting, to say the least. To be honest, the cost of living has gone up all across the country. Any major city, the complaints are basically the same. The cost of homes, either rent or buy, is out of control. We were in Denver last week. Watching the news there is almost the same as watching here. He changed the names of a couple streets, and it was.
Colorado's real estate market is fluctuating once again. It's cooled down from the frenzy of the last few years, but still, home prices can produce some sticker shock. Our Anusha Roy is live now in Broomfield. And Anusha, this is impacting people hoping to buy a home there and other communities just north of the Denver metro.
Rent has spiraled out of control. Cost of home ownership has put the concept of owning a home out of the reach for most people. First-time homeowners are hit especially hard. My son and his wife bought their first home about, an hour south of Denver. It's nice. It's a beautiful home. About 2,700 square feet, 2-car garage. It's their first home. Their first home was $535,000, and they were happy to get one that low. The cost of food, gas, it's not that much different than right here in Tampa. It's just that Tampa, which used to be known as an inexpensive place to live, has caught up with the rest of the major cities in the country. During the interview, we talked about taxes and how they've jumped. Florida just doesn't have an income tax, so we're talking about property taxes here. According to several sources, the average property tax rate in Florida is 0.8% versus 2.13% in New Jersey and 1.97% in Illinois. Florida is still less than the national average of 0.99%. The actual rate you pay is going to be based on the county you live in, just like any other property tax in the rest of the country. Hillsborough County, which is where Tampa is located, is on the higher end of the spectrum at 1.15%. The rate is not really what bothers people. The shock comes when the new homeowner gets that first bill in their name. That first bill comes about a year after they buy the home. What a lot of real estate professionals and probably title companies, pretty much everybody involved in the process, doesn't tell the buyer is that once that home changes owners, the county reassesses the value to the current market price. That current market price is what's used for the calculation of property taxes. Florida has an amendment in the state constitution that was voted on and approved in 1992. It became effective in 1995. That amendment is called the Save Our Home Act. Among other things, it puts a cap on what your home's value can be raised to each year to 3% per year, or the change in the consumer price index, whichever is lower. We refer to it as the homestead exemption. This exemption is filed once and it's portable. That simply means that once I, as a homeowner, file and receive that exemption, I can take it with me to the next property that I buy as long as it's my primary residence. The property I sell is no longer exempt because I don't own it. Since it's no longer homesteaded, the value of the home is adjusted to the current market value. Let's take a look at an example. I buy a home in 1997 for $125,000. In 2024, someone from New York City offers me $550,000. Like, yeah, I'll sell it at just about a heartbeat. All those years that I owned it, 27 of them, my homesteaded property had a 3% cap on the appraised value. At a 3% cap, my appraised value is going to be around $277,000 now. That would put me at about $3,200 in property taxes. That is the number that's going to be used to prorate the current year's taxes at closing when I sell my house, which is also the number the buyer is going to be working off of. Remember, after the house changes hands, the county is going to reassess the property to the current market value. That is going to be really close to what the buyer paid for it, $550,000. The next fall, when that new homeowner gets the property tax bill, the amount is going to be just over $6,000. And it goes up from there each year. That is where people get shocked about property taxes. By the way, not many people know it, but that first year there was a clause in the sales agreement that allows you to go back to the seller and recoup some of that prorated amount that was calculated out of the closing. I think maybe I've seen, one or maybe two people do it. Another major expense in Florida is insurance, homeowners insurance, and car insurance. Car insurance is simple. We have a ton of accidents. We have a lot of people who have moved down here from, out in other places and out on the roads, between texting and while they're driving and getting late to work. They drive like accidents happen, which drives up rates that everyone gets to pay. Homeowners isn't quite as simple, but it's not rocket science either. We have a problem with storms and hurricanes. Florida leads the way in natural disasters. Climate change is a continuing issue. And lastly, Florida leads the way in insurance fraud. There's not much that can be done about hurricanes. They're a fact of life and have been happening since the dawn of time. Preparation is about all you can do. I don't care what green program gets put into place next. They are at best a long-term solution to a short-term problem. Before you start commenting with your political views, please keep this in mind. I don't care. Doesn't matter what this or any other administration, government agency, or body of higher education is going to tell you, changing to a greener society is going to take years, probably decades. Looking at what the government has been doing over the last 2 or 3 years with our money, just building the infrastructure to make an all-electric car deal, I'm going to say that decades is going to be putting it out nicely. Mandating all-electric cars by 2030, it's a pipe dream. Sounds great for an election, but it's not probable. The insurance fraud going on out there is being addressed by the legislature. There have been laws passed to limit and outlaw much of activities, like canvassing neighborhoods by roofing companies promising new roofs paid for by the insurance company. Insurance was not designed for home maintenance plans. Those laws have slowed down some of the problems, but people have a knack for finding ways to get around laws, and the fraud can continue, albeit at a much slower rate. The effect these issues have driven a lot of insurance companies out of the state over the last few years. They can't make money, or they're going to lose millions of dollars each year. Why would they continue to write policies? They don't. They leave the state. Those that remain have had to increase their premiums to cover the additional exposure. Quite a few of those have canceled policies. Those homeowners have had to get insurance coverage from Citizens Insurance, the state-run insurer of last resort. That has put a strain on the entire system. Now, Citizens is looking to offload a bunch of those policies back to the private sector.
Mark Friedlander also says 7 new insurers have been approved to write policies in Florida.
This will finally give Florida homeowners some choice on shopping their home insurance. As we've seen in other states, when new companies come into their markets, competition leads to more competitive pricing.
Hopefully, with increased competition, rates will come down. The Florida Office of Insurance Regulation came out in May, stating that 19 insurance companies had filed for rate decreases or no increase in 2024. That is the first downward trend in 10 years. Don't get me wrong, with all the issues we are facing here in Florida, I love living here. Could it be better? Of course it could. No place is perfect. Is there a better place to live? Not for me. Florida is not for everybody, and that's okay. If you want to talk about living here, give me a call. Or better yet, go to www.bookmikeLavoie and schedule a Zoom call. I'd love to talk with you about Florida and Tampa in particular. If you haven't already done it, please subscribe to the channel. If you made it this far down the video, you must have gotten something out of it. Hit that like button as well. Thanks for watching.